straight out of Arkham Asylum, certified criminally insane. It's all very interesting to consider this, indeed. I am considered criminally insane under British law, so it's all very interesting. However, I'm not actually that much of a criminal, so it's interesting to consider that I was criminalized for criticizing Devizes Police's operations of coordinating rape gangs with the Faith of Ishmael adherents. So it's interesting that I was criminalized for this by the British state. Indeed, there's something seriously wrong there. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, I've also theorized recently that the source of the gamma radiation and the beaming technology and the voice to skull may not actually be originating in devices. Indeed, it seems that the source is actually the organs. So it's very interesting to consider the source is the organs, i.e. the KGB, from a headquarters in Salisbury. So it's interesting to consider this. Indeed, devices may be manipulating things, and therefore there are devices operatives who are operating psychotronic warfare machinery against me. However, I don't know. I cannot confirm this. I can only theorize on it, but all evidence at the moment is pointing to the organs and a Salisbury location for the psychotronic beaming. Indeed, this psychotronic beaming utilizes satellite technology and Wi-Fi, so it's interesting to consider. Indeed, the beams, i.e. the gamma radiation, are only serious when I'm in my residence. However, the voice to skull beaming technology is able to hit me anywhere and everywhere, so it's interesting to consider that. Indeed, the beaming in terms of the irradiation, i.e. the radioactive gamma rays, seems to be operated through the Wi-Fi system in my residence, so it's all very interesting. Indeed, perhaps I'm going to have to live in a hut, so it's all very interesting to consider. However, I need the internet to be able to operate, so it's all rather irritating. Indeed, Devices Police are chuckling at the fact I thought they had military grade hardware, so it's quite interesting to consider. Perhaps it's not actually originating with Devices Police, so it's Russian military grade technology and Soviet mind control beaming psychotronic technology, so it's interesting to consider. Indeed, they have a headquarters in Salisbury, so it could be being operated from there. So it's interesting to consider. This is Moscow syndrome, so it's very interesting to consider. Indeed, these beams are radioactive and cause absolute chaos to the organism, so it's interesting to consider that I seem to be still alive for the moment, despite the Russian KGB's wish to finish me off for exposing the organs. So it's interesting to consider that this is all due to an explosive exposure of KGB operations and how they interconnect with the Roundway experiment, which is partially a KGB project. And indeed, the fact that there are Russian heritage mental patients kept in the catacombs beneath devices does hint to KGB involvement. These are test subjects for KGB radioactive experiments and time travel and parallel dimension experiments that are being done and carried out by the KGB in coordination with Mossad, DVD, MI6, and CIA networks. Indeed, this is an international black operation, the Roundway experiment. So it's all very interesting to consider, and it's all being coordinated by the organs, i.e. the KGB, and their Jericho Group handlers. So it's interesting to consider the Jericho Group operating out of the catacombs beneath the Kremlin, handle the KGB operating out of their headquarters at Lubyanka. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, I'm wanted by Mossad Israelis for exposing radiation of Palestinians by the Mossad. So it's interesting. I only mentioned that very briefly in one video. However, they've been trying to keep it under wraps, the Israeli security services, that they are operating radiation warfare and voice-to-skull technology against Palestinian Arabs in Gaza and the West Bank. So it's interesting to consider, indeed, effectively, the Palestinians are fighting an army from the future. So it's all very strange and very interesting to consider. However, I don't want to get caught up in the affairs of the Israelis and the Palestinians. Indeed, that is not my remit as a schizophrenic super spy. Indeed, I am more focused on small town exposures here in Wiltshire, such as the operation being run by Calm Police concerning child abduction for the Ninth Circle, what with a Hellfire Club operating out of Bowood House, overseen by Charles Petty Fitzmaurice, the Marquis of Lansdowne, who is operating a drugs for organs scheme with Palestinian militants, interestingly. So it's interesting to consider all of this, how I'm trying to avoid the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, yet kept getting dragged into it. Indeed, I sit on neither side of the fence in terms of that one. Indeed, this drugs for organ scheme that the Bowood House operatives are carrying out for the Hellfire Clubs is basically a transferal of synthetic opioids and analgesics from Porton Down laboratories to Palestine, and in exchange, the Hellfire Clubs receive a steady stream of Palestinian children and organs. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, these organs are then moved on to Walter Rose and Sons butcher shop, and then are handed over to Albanian mobsters, who then utilize their networks of Romanian mobsters to sell these organs to Russian elites. You're seeing a pattern here. Indeed, the children that are trafficked by Palestinian militants in coordination with the Mossad's Octopus network are basically brought through Walter Rose and Sons butcher shop courtyard and then handed over to Bowood House operatives, who are themselves Calm Police. So it's all very interesting to consider this large scheme being operated by Calm Police through their connections with the Bowood House network and some very, very powerful British elites who are connected to Hellfire Club operations, therefore Grenville Lodge number 1787, and the Vatican through the Ninth Circle. Indeed, despite my statement that the Vatican is merely ceremonial these days, these are still very powerful people, these cardinals, who themselves are Freemasons. So it's all very interesting how all this interconnects back up to the ugly, i.e. the United Grand Lodge of England, who are operating schemes of voice to skull against me. I'm pretty sure that the ugly are operating schemes of voice to skull against me. Indeed, perhaps the radiation beaming is being operated by the organs, i.e. KGB operatives in Salisbury, while the voice to skull transmissions are the Ferris family. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, to really understand me, you need to watch all of these videos. Otherwise, it's very difficult to understand me. Indeed, I do often state contradictory viewpoints, but this is because I am theorizing. I am trying to work things out. Indeed, I have worked out where my loyalties lie, and that is with myself and whichever local felines come into my orbit. Indeed, this is kind of Manson family shit, so It's all very interesting to consider, really. Indeed, the KGB want to limit my activities in terms of communication with the public, and are therefore operating a scheme whereby they are stating that I will be arrested if I expose any Russian operations in Wiltshire. Indeed, due to the fact that I am not necessarily in communication with any Russian spies, it will be difficult for me to really find out information about their operations, apart from by observation. Right now, that is not a priority of mine. I'm trying to work out things about the British police here in Wiltshire, so exposing Russian spies directly isn't really in my remit. Indeed, the KGB seem to be slightly afraid of me and my location around the military base due to the proliferation of GRU and SVR operatives here in Warminster. Indeed, I believe I passed by a couple today at about midday, so it's all very interesting. They were most probably my monitors. Indeed, I seem to have several monitors in Warminster who work in shifts, and they're all handled by the organs, i.e. the KGB. Indeed, these monitors, even the monitors of MI5 that are assigned to me, are themselves KGB handled, so it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the Mossad are running a scheme here in Wiltshire that involves the abduction of Iranian children from diplomatic families stationed in England that are then transferred to Bowood House. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, a lot seems to be circulating around Bowood House, and it's interesting the proximity of Bowood House to Devizes and the Walter Rose and Sons butcher shop. Indeed, the majority of children trafficked to Bowood House go through Walter Rose and Sons butcher shop courtyard, overseen by the Black House gang of Stuart Blackhouse, i.e. these wannabes in designer jean shorts who think they're gangsters when they're really involved in a heavily police protected trade that basically involves the distribution of harvested organs and the last stage of a large international child trafficking network. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the organs, i.e. the KGB, seem to be handling a lot of this traffic, even the trafficking of children, despite the supposed image of the Russians being against all of this activity. This isn't actually the case. Indeed, the Russian mob traffic Russian children to rings such as the Hellfire Club ring operating out of Bowood House and the other Ninth Circle covens across Wiltshire. Indeed, Russian schoolgirls are apparently very highly prized in these rings, so it's interesting to consider the amount of Russian children that are being kept in basements at the manor houses across Wiltshire by British elites utilised in rape and sacrifice rituals and kiddie porn trade and snuff films. So it's all very interesting to consider in terms of how dark the reality of Wiltshire really is. Indeed, Wiltshire residents are starting to become concerned for their children, what with the realization that Wilsey is telling the truth about the police and the elites. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, the KGB run a lot of these schemes so that they can utilize the activities of the Hellfire Club networks and Ninth Circle covens for blackmail purposes, in view of the fact that the KGB wishes to blackmail the entire British system. So it's all very interesting to consider. By blackmailing the entire British system, the Soviets can therefore control the operations of the United Kingdom and the foreign policy. So it's interesting to consider that in the last 50 years, the British intelligence have overstretched their resources, and a lot of the Frankenstein's monster networks that they've created have basically turned on them and basically now pose a threat to the British intelligence's communities running of the United Kingdom, such as a lot of the jihadist networks and various other terrorist proxies that were created by British intelligence. And indeed, the KGB are utilizing these networks for their own ends. So it's very interesting to consider this, and the foreign policy of Britain these days is very much an outright pro-Israeli one. And this is because of the Sabbatean Jericho group's handling of Israeli and Russian intelligence, and the fact that these networks are engaged in enormous systematic blackmail of British officials, even down to the level of British councilmen, such as Councillor Jack Jones, the Mayor of Warminster, who is under blackmail from Mossad and Iranians, apparently. So it's interesting to consider that. Very interesting to consider indeed. Indeed, this is all a strange network that is operating out of Walter Rose and Sons Butcher Shop. It's a very odd and very curious phenomenon indeed. I'm not entirely sure who the overarching handlers are, because I keep switching my theories on who the control group are, but at the moment things are pointing to the KGB handlers, i.e. the Jericho group, this network of Sabbateans and Illuminists that basically run Britain. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, these guys are headquartered in the catacombs beneath the Kremlin and have their subsections in Lubyanka and Jerusalem. So it's all very interesting. Indeed, this is all the organs. And it's interesting, I've stated before that there's a reason why the KGB is termed the organs. So it's really strange. And it's all very, very disturbing, especially for me, because I have to put up with this constant bloody radiation and the constant voice to skull technology beaming shit into my brain that I don't want there. So it's really, really fucking annoying, all of this. Indeed, you may say you brought this on yourself by being clever. Perhaps this is the case. Indeed. So perhaps it's not actually Devizes Police operating military hardware on me. Perhaps it is an international outfit, i.e. the octopus through the organs, i.e. the KGB. Indeed, the KGB run an enormous criminal empire, and a lot of this criminal empire of theirs is centered here in Wiltshire. Indeed, all of the Faith of Ishmael network have KGB handlers, as do the Vietnamese triads that operate through the nail bars and salons. So it's all very interesting to consider this. Indeed, it's all really quite freaky, and indeed, these networks have got Wiltshire on lockdown, and no one can speak out for fear of GRU hitmen who operate as contract killers for Russian mobsters. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, MI5, i.e. the British security services, are rather worried about the impact of Russian mobsters on Wiltshire. However, due to so many MI5 operatives being handled themselves by the KGB, it is doubtful that anything will be done about these Russian mob networks that are basically taking over the county, handled by Yevgeny Maximov, who is himself handled by Putin's director of plans, i.e. Dugin's subaltern, Edgar Maximov. So it's all very interesting to consider the Maximovs are one of the most violently satanic Russian bloodlines. So it's interesting to consider these are cannibal bloodline, and they're very scary. Indeed, the Maximovs have attempted to murder me 46 times apparently, but for some reason their hitmen keep getting diverted. Now, I'm not sure what the reason is for all of these hitmen that keep being assigned to carry out a contract on me being diverted, but I'm hoping I have a guardian angel somewhere in British intelligence. So it's all very interesting to consider that the organs are the cause of a lot of my problems. The organs being the KGB, so it's all to do with the organs, i.e. the Walter Rose and Sons Butcher Shop organ harvesting cartel, and the organs as a reference to the intelligence agency, the KGB, headquartered in Lubyanka but handled by the Jericho Group from the subterranean catacombs of the Kremlin. Indeed, subterranean Moscow is a very interesting place. It's very strange, with a lot of very dark and deep secrets, kept secret from the majority of Russians by KGB operatives. There is a whole world underneath Moscow that is not known about or reported on. So it's all very interesting to consider. Subterranean Moscow seem to want to neutralize me before I start talking too much about GIU operation in Wiltshire. So this could get interesting in the coming videos. Indeed, I'm going to leave it there now. That's a nice bit of beard to pull. Nice.